What's going on, everybody? Kyle Hines here, Metal Militia Powerlifting. Today, I'm joined with Jon Currey at Juggernaught. Man, this is going to be awesome. Listen, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. You can check us out. First of all, Jon Currey. What's up, brother?
Yeah, no complaints, man. Everything's great. Staying busy for sure.
Well, every time I see you, man, you're working. You don't stop, do you?
No, I don't have I got one gear and that's go.
Man, that's awesome. So tell me about how it is. You are a big time powerlifter. You have a big time powerlifting team with you. You are a welder and fabricator of powerlifting equipment. Like, you are ass deep in powerlifting. So thank you for sitting with me, man. How'd you get involved in powerlifting?
Well, I guess it would start so I kind of was more or less like a chubby kid, and so it kind of started being a chubby kid with low self-esteem. I wanted to try to lose some of the body fat. So I started doing cardio and whatever I could learn. I didn't really have anyone to teach me anything. So I started reading books and got into most people are familiar with the Pumping Iron movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger and whatnot. So, watched that and I didn't know about powerlifting or strength sports or anything like that. I kind of just had it in my head that if you wanted to be in shape, you had to be a bodybuilder. So I started doing anything I could, we would fucking put concrete and little jugs and 5-gallon buckets and, just make shit up and just try to get fit. And I lost the fat and I started kind of getting into the bodybuilding culture. And then I kind of quickly realized that I was like, well, I don't really care what I look like so much as what I can do. And all these other guys that were bigger and maybe more ripped than me, I was stronger than them. So I was like, man, if I could find a way to just kind of showcase that. And, I was always, I played football from 6 years old to about 18, 19 years old, all through school. And, I really just I dug the weight room part of it. We would train and then we would go play football. And it was cool because I was a little fucking anger issue kid. My dad wasn't around, so I was always about hitting people and getting in fights. And so my uncle was like, football is basically you just got to hit the guy with the ball and they let you do it. And I'm like, hell yeah. So sign me up, right? So I didn't give a shit about football. I just wanted to fucking lay people out. And so, but I didn't really I played football and I would love doing the weight training. And then we'd go play, and it was like, well, I just wanted to get back to the weight training part. And so that kind of led me into getting older. I went into some fighting sports. I did boxing and jiu-jitsu. I trained out of New Orleans Boxing Club for a little while. It's kind of old school gym out in the hood over there. Kane, go lay down. It's my dog. My pit bull keeps trying to get in the camera. And so after fighting, I went into raw powerlifting. I found a raw powerlifting gym. I did a few competitions raw. My first comp was I was in the 181s. I did a 12-12 total. Nothing impressive at all, but it was fun. Just getting my feet wet, just getting out there and doing something. And then that was a sleeved one. And then I did another one at 198, which was 1432 totals, a sleeved one. And I just did a few raw meets back to back, and I didn't really have anyone to coach me, and so I had a lot of bad habits, and I tore my bicep a couple times, developed a lot of bad tendonitis, and so I was like, man, I gotta. Every time I deadlift now is just flaring up this tendonitis real bad, and every time I bench and squat and so I started pulling with straps. And so when I started pulling with straps, I found out that strongman would allow you to pull with straps and whatnot. So I went into strongman for 5 years, and I stopped doing powerlifting for a while. And I competed at a high level there, broke some national records, did all that stuff. And then I just I got bored with strongman. And so I was like, you know what? I like powerlifting, but I just kind of got bored with raw. And so I got into equipped. I hit up my buddy, John Shackelford. He's passed now, but he used to train at Westside. And while he was training at Westside, he was coaching me to do geared powerlifting. And that's when I was like, dude, I'm hooked. This is fucking awesome. Like, there's nothing like it, you know, like I just kind of fell in love with it. And, you know, since then I hooked up with, I was training under Chris Duffin for a little while. I learned a lot of good mobility stuff from him, and just like, he's a really methodical guy. I trained under John Anderson when I was doing strongman, and learned a lot of his methodologies. And then I'm good friends with Mindy, Scott Mendelson. I actually design mostly all of his equipment that he sells now. And he taught me about the bench press. And yeah, man, it just kept going on and on from there.
That's a lot. Holy shit. Let me
Yeah.
just recap if I can. So football, boxing,
Yep.
jiu-jitsu, strongman, powerlifting, raw,
Yeah.
and then powerlifting equipped. Did I miss anything? Were
That's
you a
it,
runner?
man.
A swimmer?
Right. No, mostly just aggressive lifting stuff, you know.
Yeah,
If it
yeah.
was fighting or lifting, anything testosterone based, I was into it, you know.
Okay.
I always kind of prided myself in being an athlete, like a multi-sport athlete, and not so much like a specialist in one thing. I didn't want to be a power lifter. I wanted to be an athlete to where I could stop doing powerlifting and go do strongman tomorrow and still do well, you know?
Right. I hear you talk about all the time how you don't have to be a fat slob in order to be strong. And
Yeah.
it's something I agree with. I understand that people need to get big to lift real big weight. I get it. I get the dynamic and the physics of it, but it's like a bell curve, or even it's like a up, and it's like a cliff where like
Yeah.
that size to strength ratio doesn't carry you all the way to the top. There's a limit.
Yeah, I mean, it really, it's very specific to the individual based on your bone structure, your height, your proportions, how you genetically can carry that weight and stuff. But from my experience, I've found that anything below 10% body fat is just not beneficial for strength sports, because you're healthy and you're lean, but the benefits of having that endurance really don't carry over, especially to a sport where you're only doing one rep. And you also take a lot of the fat from around the areas that need it, and you make yourself more vulnerable for injury. But I've also found that really anything above like 18% body fat is not helping you at all in any way whatsoever. I mean, I guess you could probably make an argument that your belly is so big you're pushing against your thighs in the squat and maybe have a leverage, but I mean, come on, we're splitting hairs there. I mean, honestly, anything above 18% is really not helping you, and anything below 10%, kind of, I mean, if you're going for maybe a world record and you had to do it. But my personal opinion, the sweet spot's between 12 and 15% body fat, especially for powerlifting.
Now, like I know that, like, I always, when I talk to people that don't know anything about strength sports, I say, hey, listen, if you're gonna put 1,000 pounds on a jack, do you want the smallest jack that you have? You want a 30-pound jack, or do you want
Right.
a 300-pound jack? A guy
Yeah.
that's gonna sit and he's gonna squat 1,000 pounds, he needs to have some size underneath him to be able to stabilize it. Bigger shoulders, a bigger body. Same thing with like bench pressing. You have
For
bigger
sure.
arms, bigger lats. All that stuff helps. It also decreases the range of motion, which you can't argue. That definitely helps in a bench, right?
Yeah, so pause that. For what I was referring to was full power lifting. So if
Sure.
you're a bench specialist, by all means, get as fucking fat as you want to, because that belly is going to decrease your range of motion. Your lats being bigger is going to make you more stabilized on the bench and all that. But the reason that I say full power and not and bench only, there's a difference, is because all those things that are helping you in bench is going to hinder you in deadlift.
Right.
So
Yeah, and that's a fact. That's a fact. But
yeah.
even being a bench specialist, there is a cap to how much weight you need. There is a
Oh yeah.
point where you could just keep getting fatter and not put any more pounds on the bar. And I've seen it,
Yeah.
and anyhow, it seems to be a trend that is starting to die. But for a long time, it was how big can you get to be the biggest bencher or whatever. And
That's yeah, and that's with no regard to your health at all either, you know. So it's like, we're not, which, hey, we're not in it for health. I get that, but at the same time, it's like, it takes years and years and years to get to those crazy records. Like, say, for instance, Jimmy Kolb, he just did I want to say 1350 in comp. You're not
yeah,
going to bench 1350 in 2 years. It's going to take 10, 20 years to get to that. But if you're a fat piece of shit for fucking 3 years and your blood pressure is so high you're going to have a stroke, you're not going to make it to that level of what it takes. So you have to somewhat, keep your health in check.
Yeah. That kind of leads me to like another thing that I talk about all the time is that like powerlifting is a long game. People often think that, all right, listen, in 5 years I'm going to be a world record holder. Well, no, because you're
really
competing against people who have been in your weight class for 10 years and they've been putting on that strength and they've worked through injuries and they've gotten smarter about how they train and all that.
It's like I tell my guys all the time, like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know what I mean?
Right.
So a lot of times they're like, oh, I feel good today. Like, should I just fucking send it? And I'm like, no, like let's stick to the program. You know what I mean? Because if it's here now, it's going to be there in a couple of weeks when we need it anyway. So it's like sometimes you rush it, so you'll get there a little bit early, and that's when you take unnecessary risks and when shit starts to fall apart.
There is nothing wrong with a 5-pound PR.
Yeah,
nothing
absolutely.
There's nothing wrong
Absolutely.
with that. Yeah, man. So when you switched from raw to full power, or from raw to equipped, did you do that in full power?
Yeah, for sure. I actually have pretty much been a full power lifter my whole life, until recently, because I would say a lot of things had changed, but in the past 5 years, so about 5 years ago, at that time, I was taking numbers like I did a 855 full range with the SSB and a old school Leviathan, and then I was doing about 1050 to boxes with the straight bar. I was doing pretty heavy squats, and then for whatever reason, something happened, and every time I would get in the hole with more than 800 pounds, I would just black out. And I was like, fuck, man. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I thought my straps might be too tight. I went from multi-ply to single ply. I did everything I possibly could, and I just kept blacking out. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to take a break for a little while. And so I went to bench only. And not only that, but I have a whole team that I coach now. And when we compete, there's 5 to 8, 10 people competing at a time. There's just no way I could do full power and coach them at the same time. But I mean, bench only for me is like, we do it so often, it's not a big deal. So I'm like, hey, if I can still do good bench numbers, compete in bench, and still be there to coach these guys, and I can balance it, then fuck it, that's what I'll do. So I've basically just been doing bench only for the past like 2 years. But yeah, prior to that, my whole career, I always trained all three.
So tell me about your team. I know you got some monsters out there. Tell me all about them in your recent meet there.
We just competed last weekend, and we had a good meet. Ryan performed really well. Ryan Leal, he's my protege. He's about 22 right now. I've been training him for about 3 years. He came to me basically straight out of high school, and I've put about 950 pounds on his total in the past like 3 years. Kid's a fucking monster. So we did a 1,027 squat, a 800 bench, and a 730 deadlift, 731, 32, something like that. Yeah, I think he got 25.55 or something was his total. And so and he's 22 and he competes in the 220 class. He was in the 242 class so we competed 6 months ago and took Jimmy Kolb's 220 all-time world record. So since we already had the all-time world record total, we said, fuck it, we'll go to 242 and try to beat that one. And so that was the plan. So we were like 225 and the 242s, but
yeah,
we went in there to beat it. And so to kind of recap that meet, how it was going was I just made some new briefs through Mindy's line, and I wanted to try them out at that meet, the Mindy Juggernaught briefs. And so I put the briefs on them, and come to find out they fit him perfect. So it took a lot of weight to get down. So I opened them with 925 and he couldn't even hit depth. So he was a little high. So I was like, shit. I said, all right, no problem. Let's go like, 975, 985. So we put 985 loose wraps, loose strap, everything. Barely got to parallel. And since he had almost no assistance, it went up, but not very fast. He got the lift. And so at this time, his PR was about 1,005 in comp. So I was like, all right, let's strap it up, put it down tight. We'll go 1,027 because that would have beat Dave Hoff's world record of 1,025. Let's chip it, throw a Hail Mary, go for it. So I put 1,027. I cranked the wraps, I cranked the straps, and he fucking takes it so fast. It was like air. It was like an opener. And I'm like, motherfucker, man. Like, if I would have known that, we'd have won 1,100, right?
Right. So,
we'll get it next meet. But and so then we go on to the bench, open with 800, stroked it, no problem. I wanted to get about 835 to 850. So we put 835 on the second attempt. We do our handout, out, release. He gets about halfway down, the fucking bolt in the bench cracks in half. I'm like, what the fuck? And so for me, I've been around people, I've had people even on my team in the past, like crack their arm, their whatever bone that is in your arm. And so when I heard that snap, I was like, fuck, like I thought he cracked his arm, but he kept going. The crack threw him off. He barely managed to touch and went to press up, and he didn't lock it out because just that loud crack threw him off. So we finally examined what was going on, and the bench was like this, like it's
Jesus
just
Christ.
fucked, and we were the last lifters in the flight and the last attempt and all that. So the meet promoter was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, it should be okay, right? I'm like, fuck no, it's not gonna be okay. Like the fucking bench is gonna be all over the place. But we didn't have another bench, so I was like, fuck it, let's take it. We got to at least try it, right? So we went out, release. And as soon as we release, he's like fucking all over here trying to stabilize it. He gets it about halfway down and just can't even hold it. He fucking dumps it on his stomach. And so we ended up obviously not getting the numbers we wanted on bench. Went on a deadlift, pulled great numbers, but we were about 35 pounds short of the all-time world record total, which was the 35 we wanted on bench. So it's like, bittersweet. It was the best we could do at the time, and we're competing next month. So it'll be fine. It'll be there next month. But yeah, that was circumstances out of our control, we'll say.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. That's a hard thing to overcome, and that stuff shouldn't happen. We shouldn't be having any bolts and stuff on a bench in the first place. That should be welded. I don't have to tell you, you're a fabricator.
Yeah.
That kind of breaks my heart to hear, But anyhow, like you said, it is what it is. That's in the past. We're moving forward. You got a meet next month, and you'll get it then.
So that's Ryan. I have Gio. So Gio is also another junior. He's around 22. And Gio was a strongman athlete that came to me, and I've been training for powerlifting. He's done a few powerlifting full power meets. And Gio's he's a fucking forklift, man. He's just got the perfect leverages for deadlift. And I think one day he's gonna freaking shake the world with some deadlifts. Like he's done a 1,100-pound block pull already, at 220. His leverages from his knee up is just fucking insane. It's just training him, putting more quads on him, getting more power off the floor and stuff like that. Probably around 800 pounds puller conventional at 220 from the floor. But like I say, I mean, once you get it to his knee, if you could put a truck on there, it's coming up. So we already know what we're working on. We're addressing it. It's just taking time to build that power, lots of deficits, lots of quad work, stuff like that. And he'll be a monster, man, for sure. I have a new guy, Paul. Paul's an MMA fighter that I coach. He's looking to go pro in MMA. But he's also a raw power lifter who's kind of a geared power lifter in denial. He doesn't realize it yet, but it's all good. But he's the same way, man. He's a fucking forklift. He's got retard strength, like he just he didn't know the form. He doesn't really know what he was doing, but he was pulling like 740 for like 4. And like, what the fuck?
I love guys like that, man.
The ironic thing is, like, he's a physical therapist, so like he knows all about the body mechanics and all that. And I see his form, and I'm like, well, good news, bad news. Good news is I can do a lot with that. You're really explosive. Bad news is your form is like dog shit. So we have some serious work to do there.
Yeah.
But very, very strong back, very explosive guy. So I think we're going to see a lot out of him too.
Oh, that's awesome. That's huge. Anytime anybody's pulling over 700 pounds, that's a benchmark. A lot of people can pull 6, know, but you start getting over 7, that's a big fucking number to pull off the floor,
Definitely. I think, like, for me, I can pretty much take a person within a month and have them pull 405, no matter who it is. Within a few months of training, you'll get to 500. It's going to take some time to get to 600. Like it's going to take you knowing what you're doing, like staying consistent with it and whatnot. And, staying with it for a while to pull 600, but even 600 is a pretty achievable goal that a lot of people have pulled. But once you get into like 700, you're talking numbers that like not a lot of people have pulled. 800 is kind of like the top of the top. 900s are crazy. You got like 2 or 3 people hardly, you'll see they'll do that, but 800s super crazy, and 700 is like the benchmark. I would agree. 700 is when you start getting my attention. If you can pull 700, I'm like, well, let's see what this guy's about.
That guy's pretty strong. You could tell that guy's been doing it for a long time. You know,
Yeah.
they're like, and they're genetically okay with it. Where I think a lot of people fall apart at 600
for sure.
Things start breaking. You know what I
Well,
mean?
if your form's not right on point, yeah, it's going to start giving around there. Your arms aren't locked, your biceps are going to pop. If your back's rounded, you're going to throw out your low back. Like wherever the form's bad, you'll see it around 600 for sure.
Yep. Ain't it true? Ain't it true? What about you? You got anything coming up for yourself? Any goals?
I'm going to compete in Strength Wars next month. I'm going to be doing bench only.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's
bench is
down in Corpus Christi.
Yep. That'll be a Metal Militia. Bam. Yeah, it's gonna be a good meet. I'm building some of the implements for his strongman comp, and I'm gonna be competing in the bench only, and I'll have all my guys. The whole crew will be out there. We'll have about 10 people doing full power. But training's been going good for bench lately. From what I can get in, I've been really busy. I haven't got to really do it as much as I'd like, but I still expect to perform well. I've done 805 full range at 220 on bench, and I make the shirts. I have a fuck ton of different shirts. So I've got a shirt for 8, a shirt for 9, a shirt for $1,000. But I've done 955 to 2 board. I've done 800 full range, so I expect to get somewhere between 850 and 900, and
Nice.
we'll see where it goes from there. But that's what I'm looking at.
Those are great numbers too.
Yeah.
With the equipment, it's the equipment is evolved and is changing so fast. And from like a federation point of view, like as the guys who's in charge of keeping up with the rules, it's a nightmare. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I bet.
Like, you're like, what is allowed and what isn't allowed and stuff. These band shirts came out, and it's been like a chase to make sure that everything is still okay and that we can level the playing field and everybody has an equal chance of competing fairly. So, as this equipment evolves, there's going to be different rules and stuff. But what's exciting about it is that it's opened up the world of heavy lifting to a whole lot of new people, right? So a guy that could bench 315 wouldn't even put on a shirt, back when I was coming up. Like everybody was like, yeah, you really should be benching 405 before you put a poly on, which is reasonable.
Sure. I think it's great with the band shirts, because so going back to our conversation about my kind of transition, when I came out of the strongman and started going into the multiply, there weren't any band shirts,
right.
So like I lifted in the poly. I had a Rage X, I had a Phenom, I had a Super Duper Phenom, and they're a fucking nightmare to get in. It's like you got to have all these people and trash bags or your slippers or whatever, and you fight to get in these things, and especially one of the closed back ones I had, fucking nightmare. Talk about claustrophobic girl doing this shit.
Man, the first thing we do when somebody showed up with one of those is cut it. Just cut the back right off the fucking thing. Just take that shit off.
And you do all this work and you get in the shirt. And then you got to stay in the shirt the whole time, and you got to have like the crew and do all this stuff. And with these band shirts now, man, you can slip them on, you can slip them off. They're much more comfortable. They don't take a whole crew to get them on. Some guys even lifting them, like Brian Forbes, one of the Metal Militia guys. He lifts in the shit by himself. He doesn't even have.
He's amazing how he does that.
He's crazy. Yeah.
He's crazy.
Yeah,
he's in his basement garage and he's benching 800 pounds, 900 pounds alone. Let's talk about. I want to talk about your equipment.
Yeah, we've got the Juggernaught Barbell fabrications. It was just my equipment, and then we have the line with Mandy I'm working on. I came out with some deadlift suits. We have some squat briefs. We've got Mindy's X Factor bench shirt, and we also have a squat suit that I'm working on right now. We haven't released that one yet because it's still in the R&D phase, but yeah, we've been getting a lot of really good results with that. And then, like I said, my fabrication company, that's the main bread and butter right now. We're putting out all kinds of stuff. I've done monoliths, comp benches, jammer arms, lots of strongman equipment. I'm about to do hack squat, and I mean, you name it, it's all custom. So whatever the customer wants, we make it.
Well, I see your equipment online. I haven't ever seen it up close, but I've seen it online. The stuff looks great. Like
Thanks, man.
aesthetically, it's cool as fuck. You know what I
Thanks,
mean?
man.
I
Yeah.
like what you got going on out there. You know?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
try to my number one thing is just to make sure that it holds up. That's kind of how this whole thing got started. So basically when COVID hit, all the gyms shut down and I went off and did my own thing and kind of made my gym in my garage, and that was Juggernaught Barbell 1.0. And I built everything in the garage out of wood. I built a wood power rack, a wood bench, a wood everything. Like I was literally squatting like over 1,000 pounds in a wood power rack that I made with like 4x4 or 2x4 screwed together and all that shit. And but anyways, it got to a point where obviously, we're lifting so much weight, it just wasn't safe with the wood. So I had to start welding it. And then everyone was breaking the equipment that we bought with other people, and I kept having to add on and weld it and restructure it. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna fucking do this shit for myself. And I
Yeah.
did, and it's been great. And I just recently linked up with a guy who has a CNC machine, and so that escalated us to a whole new level. We can do all kinds of newer stuff. We've got a milling machine and a lathe where we can turn our own pins and everything. So it's been great. I've been having a lot of fun with it.
And you see
Yeah.
that there's a niche, there's a need for what you're doing within this sport. Yes, there are big companies. I'm not going to bash anybody, but there's big companies out there making monos and making powerlifting equipment, and they're charging stupid prices. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
for
you're just
sure.
looking at like I look at them online. I'm like, why? When I know what the cost of steel is, and I know what labor is, and I'm like, these
Mm,
guys are making $1,000 profit on a fucking monolift, and the people that are
yeah.
buying them are blue collar people, guys
Yeah.
that's trying to run a small gym. It's not right. So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
Even if I took every possible upgrade and steel and labor and time and everything, I mean, some of these prices are double that. When you look
Yeah.
online, you're like, wow.
And you're working with Scott Mendelson on his. I
Yeah.
know about his shirts. I know a lot of people are
Yeah.
getting good results out of them. And you said you're
Mhm.
making a set of. I didn't know this. You're making briefs. You're making a squat suit. And is
Yeah, the
that
briefs are already for sale. They're all custom tailored to your dimensions, so they're a custom fit, exact fit of what you give us. Make 2-ply, 3-ply, and 4-ply. I have a conventional deadlift suit, which is a double-ply laminated poly with a band material strap. So as you use the band material, it's easier to get down to the bar, but it also recoils back up. So that would be in the unlimited division, and those have been working great. We've been getting PRs left and right. And then now we're coming out with a squat suit. I just want to finish it first, but the squat suit is it's a bottom layer canvas, top layer poly, so it's easier to breathe. And then we've got a kind of rubber grips on the straps for the bar to be able to sit in. So it's adjustable, and also it's really cool. Having a lot
that's
of fun
cool.
with it.
So if somebody wants some of those, how do they get that? Would they reach out to
So
you or Mendy?
yeah, either way, definitely. You can hit me up on Instagram, which is at Juggernaut_lifestyle, or Mindy. I believe it's at Scott Mendelson on Instagram. Um, yeah, I'm happy to take any orders or any questions you guys have.
Oh, that's cool, man. Yeah, we'll put out the word for you. Get that shit going. I'm gonna wrap it up, man. Is there anything else left that you didn't get to talk about you wanted to?
Mm, Not a lot, man. I would say just look for us at Strength Wars to we're gonna go for that 242 all-time world record. And then I've got some big stuff that I'm bringing to Metal Militia Worlds this year. I don't want to disclose it yet, but
All right.
just be ready.
All
Be
right.
ready.
All right, man. That's awesome. Brother, thank you so much for taking your time out. So, in case you guys didn't know, Juggernaut is an affiliate of the Metal Militia. That means that they're a gym in their own entity, that they can throw Metal Militia meets, and they're like our cousins. So if anybody ever is interested in maybe pursuing that, we could possibly get with you. But you got to be cool. You got to be cool
Oh.
like John here. All right, guys. Thank you so much, John, for hanging out with us. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. And this is Metal Militia, man. You guys have a great day. Take care.
All right, brother.